How can I sell my books directly to consumers and cut out these retailers who want a wholesale discount on my book to sell it to somebody else? Today, we're going into week number 2 of our series on how we're going to directly sell our books to our readers as independent authors. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm MK Williams. I'm an author and independent publisher. I love sharing my insights about all things self-publishing with you. Before I get into the details of today's topic, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below. That way you can be here every week as I release new videos about all things self-publishing and how to make a career out of being an author. This is the second video in my 4-video series that I'm doing on how authors can sell their books directly to consumers through different platforms. I'm going to cover 4 different methods. Again, there are dozens and dozens of methods out there. I'm only going to be focusing on the ones that I've actually tested and can give you my personal feedback on. I mentioned in the last video, which was on doing Google Forms, that if there are more systems that I end up testing, I'll probably end up making more videos to go in this series. So 4-video series for now, who knows what it'll be in the future. But I'm going to start this week by talking about how you can sell directly to consumers in person at book signings, conferences, and other events. So obviously this is being filmed during the age of COVID, and hopefully book fairs, conferences, and the like all come back into play here once everything is settled down and we have a vaccine. But currently that's not really happening. So you're probably watching this and giving me a big eye roll. I'm a-okay with that, but I have sold books at events before, and I've evaluated doing events that I decided to not do because the cost was going to be too prohibitive. So I definitely want to give you all the information on this option as well. So how would you set up this opportunity to sell your book at an event, at a conference, at a book fair, person to person, at a bookstore, all those things? So first, you need to research book events in your immediate area and also in your genre. So there could be some that are associated with a local book fair, with a certain store, with a newspaper, with a professional writing organization. So you want to look at those locally, and then you just want to look based on a large conference maybe for your genre, whether that's romance or sci-fi or world building fantasy, so anything like that. So you definitely want to be on the lookout for all the different opportunities that are out there. Now, obviously, if you write nonfiction, then there's probably an industry conference you can go to, right? So if your nonfiction books are about personal finance, there are personal finance conferences. If it is about coaching and motivation, there are motivational conferences. So you want to look at all the different opportunities for events and at different sizes, right? So some of these conferences could be huge, some of them could be small range, some of these local events could just be kind of an open pavilion where different vendors are set up and just kind of whoever walks through that day. So you definitely want to get an idea of what the size is going to be, what the scale is going to be, whether you may just have a booth or a single table or just maybe a little corner where you're standing there and you just have a pile of books with you. So definitely get a feel for all the different opportunities you have, and you'll want to keep that list up to date, right? Because these events could be happening all throughout the year. Just because you're looking today and that event's happening this weekend, maybe they're sold out, doesn't mean you can't do that one next year. So with this, you do have to do your research, again, keeping track of what events are happening, their application deadlines, their application fees, and the local bookstores that you've sent inquiries to about either doing individual book signing events, like one-on-one, just author signings, author readings, or if they're doing a larger event, you don't want to just keep pitching the same bookstore and then they're finally like, I can't stand you, I'm blocking you, get over it. So you definitely want to be very clear and orderly in this setup. Okay, so for point of sale at each of these events, so some events will have it where a person, there's almost like a voucher system where they have their vouchers and then they'll cash in later. You'll receive your payment based on the vouchers that you get. I think that's weird. I want to make sure you as the author are getting your money that you are due. So a lot of the times you're going to have to provide your own point of sale. Now, anytime you are selling directly to people, you want to have options. So you should always have cash on hand, small bills for change. Some people will walk up and just say, hey, I have a $20 bill. You're selling your book for $15. I need $5 change. That's always important to keep in mind. However, in a growing digital society, you really want to get a way that you can swipe a credit card. So I use Square. So when I did a conference back in 2019, I was set up at a table. Thankfully, I did not have to pay for the booth. I did not have to pay for the tablecloth. Again, these charges can add up at some conferences. So I was very happy not to pay for those two things, but I only had 1 hour at that table. There was a rotating author every hour. So I knew I had to make the most of it. So I had a Square reader. I had the price plugged into my phone so I could easily just swipe, set that up. And what was really nice about Square is I put in the exact location where I was so that the local sales tax was incorporated in there. So that's also really important to remember. It's about where you are. So maybe you live in Florida, but the conference you're going to is in New York. You need to make sure there's New York sales tax associated. So you can either pass that sales tax onto the consumer on their end where they pay that extra amount, or it comes out of your cut. So just keep that in mind. So with the Square Reader, you need to make sure you have the app, you need to make sure you have the reader, and you need to make sure that the conference that you're at has Wi-Fi, right? You don't want to just be pulling data all day, and you don't want to count on your data to necessarily be working if all these booths next to you are also pulling from the same data network or same Wi-Fi. You may even want to invest in a hotspot where it's just your personal Wi-Fi so nobody else is pulling off of that, depending on the size of the conference. So again, that's where your research into how big it is really going to be important, and asking the conference organizer, what would you recommend? They may say, yeah, we have Wi-Fi, but bring your own hotspot. A lot of people are going to be pulling on the same network. So make sure you have that and cash on hand. Now, with the Square Reader, if you have paid for your Square Reader, I'm so sorry. You shouldn't have. So you sign up for Square, and then it says it's $10 for one of these readers. And that makes sense, right? Like, I mean, if I was a company with lots of people and I was selling at a lot of different events and I needed multiple of these, yes, I should pay for that. But for me, I just went to the Square website. I poked around for a couple minutes just looking at it. Then I, went onto Facebook, and there was an ad where I could use a coupon code to get a free reader. So I clicked on that immediately. I signed up for the account. I got the free reader code with that. It took about a week to get here, so I had this well in enough time for my event, but I did not have to pay for it. They usually have some kind of a perma-free thing going on, so just check that out. If not, it's $10, but still trying to save you money there. You'll have to make sure you've done your research on the event, you have a way to take payment, and then you'll also want to make sure you bring enough books, enough pens to actually sign the book. So you want to bring any extras if you want to do bookmarks or cards or business cards, depending on what kind of conference it is and what kind of book you have. I also highly recommend candy and snacks. People like food. It will draw them in. So just prepare to have that in your budget. And as you can already tell from what I've mentioned, conference fees, potentially an application fee to apply for the booth, in addition to the fee you have to pay to secure the booth, linen fees. I have seen this. It's ridiculous. Potential Wi-Fi hotspot, okay, all the other stuff you have to bring. This is starting to add up, right? So I just want to put that out there. That is a big con. But first, we're going to go through all the pros before we get to the cons. Okay, so the pros of selling at these events is that you literally have a captive audience who likes books or at least has an interest in your topic, depending on the kind of conference that you're at. It would take a lot of effort and a lot of money to target this audience with ads online while they're maybe looking for other things, but they're literally right there in front of you. So this is a great opportunity for you to actually make the sale, but also connect with your readers, understand what they're looking for, understand what they like, give them that personal touch where they can't get an autographed in-person copy from you with a photo with you anywhere else, right? So this is the chance to really build that relationship for somebody who's hopefully going to turn into that brand evangelist for you and your books. And that connection is a huge pro, right? So if a reader picks up a random book off a shelf at the library, reads it and likes it, maybe they'll give it a good review or just a positive rating and move on. But if they met the author, they have a signed copy of the book, maybe even a photo with the author, that adds something to that experience. So they want to give you a rating. They want to give you a review now because they've met you and they liked you as a person. They want to support you. They want to feel connected to you. They want their friends to know that they met and have an autographed copy from this amazing author that they met. So that helps to really get the word out about your book and your brand. You can connect with your audience on a whole new level, and that's really just going to deepen their relationship with you and your work. And for the most part, that's the biggest benefit of selling books in person at these events, not necessarily the revenue you're going to generate because of all those things I already mentioned about the costs. Okay, so cons of selling in person at these events. So we're living in a COVID world, so chances are these kinds of events won't happen again for a while. But when they do happen, they're probably going to be different. So it could really change a lot of things. So again, like I said before, these large conferences, you have to apply, you have to pay fees. It can be really expensive. It adds up. So you'll need to bring way more books with you than you would ever expect to sell. Selling out's good, but you want to show that you have inventory too. If you just show up with 10 books and you have this big old table, it doesn't look very good. So you're going to have to actually lug more books with you than you would ever expect to sell, just so you still have this nice setup. You may want to get extra signage just to bring people in. Again, the more polished and professional you can make your table and your booth look, the better, but it is more expensive. So if you're only already making a few dollars per paperback copy, this could be an endeavor where you lose money, even if you're gaining a dedicated and loyal fan base. So this is one of the times where I say you're selling, yes, direct to your readers, but it's not necessarily for money-making purposes. And another con is, like I mentioned, the taxes on the transactions. So you sell the books at a conference in a major city, they may have sales tax requirements for the city and the state that you have to think about. So again, more money, more problems. It's another hoop to jump through. And the reason why online retailers are so nice is because they just handle it all for you. So that is another method that I've used to sell books directly to an audience. It's fun. It's exciting when somebody walks up and they're like, oh, I was looking for you. I really want to buy your book. When somebody comes up and says, oh, I'll just buy this out. Like, you're like, oh, that's exciting. So the one conference that I did sell at was really cool. Like I said, it was a 1 hour rotation. So I had to be there at my assigned time. But I also wanted to make sure, there's this whole other conference going on. There's all these other events happening. So the people that I knew at the conference, I said, hey, I need you to show up at the table, or like tell people to come to my table at this time. And then I also baked cookies. Like I got an Airbnb offsite from the conference. And so I was able to bake homemade cookies with cookie dough and brought Kit Kats, and I was taking photos and posting them to Twitter and to the conference app. And I said, hey, and I very strategically set them up with the book there. And I said, hey, stop by, the book, the author's table. I'm here from this time to this time. Also, anybody who buys gets a cookie. So you will not believe what people will do for a free cookie. But that was really helpful to me, and I actually sold out. Now, I do consider when you're at one of these events, if you sell all but that last book, that's still a sellout, because nobody actually wants to be the one to buy the last book. Usually they walk by, they just see one book, they're like, oh, that person's just standing there with their book. Like at that point, they no longer understand that it's for sale, even when you say books for sale. So I do consider if you sell all but that final book, then you are still sold out. And then I had an extra book copy to bring home with me for all kinds of travel photos. So that was nice. But it was fun. It was exciting. Every sale was just like, woohoo, I made a sale. But it was a lot of work, a lot to coordinate, a lot to lug up on a plane. Thankfully, again, it was all but empty on the way back. So I was going to be really nervous and probably not too happy if they hadn't sold out. So that was going to be tough. But I hope you found this information helpful as you're starting to consider different ways that you can sell your books directly to your consumers. If you found this video helpful or valuable, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to hit subscribe. That lets YouTube know that you're finding value from the videos I'm putting out and can get it in front of more authors like us. Now you can get back to writing your book.